Special thank you to our sponsors of Russ Reels Live, Celevators, the Master Connector, and the Alzheimer's Association. If you want to know how to elevate your sales to have exceptional results, contact Celevators.com today. And for more information on the Master Connector and the Master Connector Show and Steve Spiro, go to stevespiro.com. And finally, for the Alzheimer's Association and how to give to this amazing organization, go to alz.org.
I always forget how fast that little guest host thing goes. But here we are. This is Russ Reels, and Russ is not here today. He is off in an appointment, and so I get to be the substitute host. But Russ is here every Wednesday with Russ Reels for panel discussions on really interesting subjects, but better than the subjects, it's the guests. She's got great guests. And today we have Nikki and Nick, and we have Christine, and Liz Lawless is on the road from Texas to North Carolina. So we're hoping that she will also be in here a little bit later. Oh, and in fact, speak of the Liz, there she is right there. All right. So every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and it's 7 for those of you who live on the other side of the continent. This is Thursday. You got to remember which day of the
Thursday.
Week. Every Thursday at 4 p.m. Russ Reels, fabulous conversations. Today it's Writing 101, and we've got some very inspirational folks who have a variety of experiences from recent to long-term deep. And so we're going to be able to answer some questions. We've already got folks in the comments typing away there. So Susanna and Royce, thank you for joining. And so anyway, I get to host the co-host the Experience Live with Russ and Scott every Wednesday. That's why I got confused for a moment. I'm thinking about Wednesday, but here we are on Thursday. He's off. I get to jump in. And with that, let's just get right into Writing 101. We're going to talk about how you can publish. And in the old days, you had to get an agent and go to a big publishing house, get rejected hundreds of times, and maybe get something approved. And then it would take probably 3 or 4 years for your book to go from that point to being sold publicly. But Christine was able to publish a couple of books in 1 year, from idea to people being able to read it. So Liz has been involved in publishing for a while, has great experience. And I will say, we'll let Liz talk about it in a minute, but I think kind of more of a hybrid type approach. And maybe we'll talk about the details there. Nick has some fabulous news coming up. And so that's where I want to start. I want to start because there's a special banner right behind you. And so let's get an introduction and tell people about what that banner means.
As soon as I can stop smiling. You have a lot to smile about. I do. Yeah. And I am definitely the newest author on the panel. And I authored in 3 anthologies this year, March, July, and September. Each one went to #1 international bestseller. And I did not start out intending to be an author. I've just always been very passionate about writing. And I got a great opportunity in March to author. I said yes. I had a week to turn in the draft, and I never looked back. And that experience this year has just opened up the most amazing opportunities, including starting my own company 6 months ago, The Gifted Bipolar Writer. And the gifted part's not the writing, it's the bipolarness. I'll explain that in another show. But right after the show, the launch is going to go out that after authoring with other publishers, I am going to be publishing my own anthology along with Dr. Constance Leyland, Susanna Dawn, and Christine Jones, my sister circle. I do design book covers. I do have book covers up this year, about 3 of them that I designed for clients. So I'm extremely excited to design my own. And it's behind me. Do I go left or right? Okay. It's called A Note to My Family. I Am Your Legacy.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, and I had a 6 o'clock call that I said a hard stop at 6:30 because I'm with Russ and Scott at 7. And I just found out that I will be a panel speaker in session 1 of the Worthy Rally in New York City on November 11th. Aurora,
All right.
the glitter goddess, I call her. She is the keynote speaker. And I met her in January. And our 5-hour first time Zoom gets to turn into meeting in real life. Somebody else talk because I'm just gonna start crying.
Well, that's a.
Yes.
I wanted to start Nick there because this is exciting news. I want to share that because this is the whole thing here. We want to really inspire people to tell their story, to write, to capture this. And a number of years ago, it was blogs, right? Write a blog, put it out there. And that was great. Then podcasting really picked up and people were making podcasts. But now publishing a book is easy. And it can be a digital book, an ebook. It can be a paper book, soft or hardcover. The ways to publish are very easy. But the thing that I think about, and I love this about legacy, and Liz, I'm going to come to you here next. Because, I think, what if my grandfather had written a book, or my grandmother, my great grandmother had written a book? I would cherish that, right? And it would be whatever they wrote about, right? It could have been about their life and times, memoirs. It could have been their business processes, right? And from that perspective. And so there's something really valuable about capturing your story and to be able to share it, even if it's only for your legacy. But Liz, let's give a background. Tell the folks who you are, what's going on in your world, and let's just start right there.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, we help people publish for legacy or leverage. And so the legacy piece of it is mostly people they're either writing children's books or they told their kids their stories. And now they're telling their grandkids and they want to write those stories. But myself, my parents opened a Christian bookstore in 1972. So I've been in the book business since I was 11. I didn't want to be in the retail business where I had to work, 10 to 10 every day or 10 to 6 every day, 6 days a week, like my mother did. But I went, I graduated with a journalism and speech degree, and I got my BA, and then I got my master's at Southern Methodist University. But I took a creative writing class with my mother just for fun. And I kind of knew I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know if I could write a creative story. I had gone to school. They taught me how to write journalism, who, what, when, where, and how. I worked for the newspaper, and that's a different kind of writing than book writing. So that's what I did. I wrote this story. The instructor said, "I think you could sell this as a children's book." And I about fell out of the chair. And I said, "Are you kidding me?" But like you say, that was 1988. And the only option was traditional publishing. So I sent out my 50, query letters, and I got back 47 rejections, and it's like being stabbed in the heart. And I said, well, I guess this publishing stuff's not for me. And I put it away. And self-publishing was coming on, but it wasn't mainstream for sure. There were very few people doing it. And so I jumped into, an advertising company, a marketing creative services firm that was related to printing because my first office was in a print shop. And I went to work. One of my clients, first client was the African American Museum at Fair Park, of all things. And they said, you know, about 6 months into the contract, they said, well, you've got a children's book, don't you? And I said, well, I got a manuscript. I didn't have the book. I didn't have any of the illustrations. I just had the written story. But what I did is I was 5 years in my business. So I had cash flow. I had an artist. I had a printer. I had 10 other jobs in the print shop. You know, so this was like, I was like, well, I can do this myself now, because self-publishing had come along a little bit. And so I printed my first book, said, yeehaw, you know, sold my first 100 copies. This is going to be great. And I had 2,400 copies sitting in the warehouse. And I said, what am I going to do with these other 2,400 copies? Because back then you had to print a bunch of stuff to, you know, to be able to get the price down where you could make any money on the deal, you know. And then I woke up and said, oh, I guess I need to figure out how to sell these books. Well, of course, the traditional book, the bookstores wouldn't talk to you if you were self-published. They wouldn't carry your stuff. You had to go through their warehouses. You had to go, you know, you do all this kind of stuff. So basically sold myself. And then, so I began to self-publish myself and my own work. And I did a story about Western legends. After that, I actually wrote a book on the brain for schools in between that. But I went ahead and self-published that Creative Monster story, and I probably have the last like 30 copies of the 2,500, you know. But yeah, and so about 10 years ago, I had a friend. I've published over the years different things, and I actually have 15 books now. But about 2013, a friend of mine, a doctor friend, got taken advantage of drastically by some vanity press people to the tune of about 50,000, and then another guy to the tune of about 100,000. And I got so mad that they took advantage of these guys just because they didn't know anything about publishing, that I started helping other people publish. So that's what I do today. And our thing is called the Author Adventure. We basically, I co-host with our friend Russ Johns, who some of y'all know, and we do a show every Tuesday, a live stream every Tuesday, interviewing authors. So I'll have to have Nick on, and we'll talk about your books. We'll be doing that in November, so we'll try to schedule something. And then, like you say, we just help mostly nonfiction and children's books is what we do mostly. We're doing a few fictions. But fiction's a whole different ball game, you know, and it's a whole different. The writing is different. The publishing is the same. There are 3 ways to publish now. You can traditionally publish still and take that 3 to 5 years Scott was talking about. You can self-publish, and you can publish in a month to 6 months or like 12 months. You know, it shouldn't really take you longer than that to publish anymore if you self-publish and with somebody's help. And then you can partner publish, which is what we do. We do a lot of the behind the scenes, the uploading, the formatting, the layout, the fighting with Amazon, the fighting with Ingram, you know, taking all those customer calls. because since COVID, there are a lot of issues that are still going on. So anyway, but it's always fun. And everybody's
that's what's interesting. You know, you talk about the vanity publishing, and I'll say this goes back, I think, into the late 80s when that phrase was coined, and it's really unfair, right? Because basically they said, oh, it was people who had a work that wasn't worthy of being published. That's why none of the big publishers took it on. And so then they would go out and get 2,500 copies or 5,000 copies of their book. And it was kind of a vanity thing, because not just anyone can afford to buy 5,000 copies of their book. I don't even have a garage, so I don't know where I'd put them. So, you know, right. And we'll talk about some of the mechanics of the current publishing a little bit later. Let's go over to Christine, because you're an intermediate now. You are not a first-time author. You have... So we'll just introduce yourself and let's get your journey.
Sure. I have to introduce myself as actually being D. Scott Smith's wife. So he's the motivational listener, and he has to be, because I speak more than most people are capable of listening. So he really has to be good at it. And motivational, I call it dragging me by my ankle
like just Neanderthal, It's like you're talking about making some handouts, printing out some handouts and talking to a small group of people in a small room. Really, your message could go so much farther. And one of those ways, he said, is to publish. And speaking to Russ Johns, he is the one who said last year, at the end of last year, so it's almost been a year now, Liz, when you and Russ had me on, and Russ goes, your word for 2023 is publish. So it happened. And it didn't hurt, but it was agonizing. I was going to misbehave right away because Mr. Smith is the substitute teacher in writing 101. What better place to start shooting spitwads, etc. And then here comes Nicole going, just was told that I'm going to speak in a couple of weeks in New York, which means that a person who does not want to speak, or at least doesn't want to speak this year, goes, let's get Nicole to speak. Then I can sit in the audience and listen to her. And obviously everyone should follow Liz if they have 2,400 books sitting in their garage, and follow what she says, because she knows how to get them into hands. And part of the writing is getting something from your heart out there in front of you. And part of it is for the future and for the generations to come. And part of it is that you just want somebody to have the information that's stuck in here. That was mine.
Right.
I thought all that I learned during my years of being a hired caregiver in private homes should not die with me. And I started finding out there was a whole lot of people that had already caught on to that decades ago. And they were writing their information thinking this has got to help someone. So I did write a book for the first time at age 62, but it was only on device, right? It's a Kindle book. And so my husband did all the work of figuring out how to manipulate through how you get it to come onto paper, whether it's going to have a spine. There was a lot that he did that he had never done before. And he got that all ready because I really did feel that it should be, paper that you can hand to someone and flip through. And so he worked on that. We did the little one first, the one that I didn't plan on writing as a book, but he had motivated me, dragged me by my ankle, said, what you just wrote because you love to write, and that resonates with some people, you should expand it. I'm going to actually give you carte blanche on writing about my own experiences to expand that newsletter, LinkedIn newsletter that you wrote. And so that was the little one. I expanded it and then expanded it again because there's a group called ALZ Authors, ALZ, the beginning of Alzheimer's, who said, hey, when are you going to submit your book to be vetted and promoted by ALZ Authors? And I thought, well, as soon as I have one that actually has something in there about that, which I have a lot of experience being an assistant and a friend and a companion in families where Alzheimer's or some form of dementia was in play. So I got that in there. So the little one got made into paper first, and it arrived, and it has the picture that I wanted to be, the front, etc. But the real book, the one that I've been writing on scraps for 10 years, that I didn't know was going to be a book until another author, first-time author, said, well, that should really be a journal. And I hadn't, you're right, because I could only think like a former classroom teacher. So it was going to be basically a workbook, and it still looks like one. I mean, it's
Christine,
truly,
hold that
yeah.
book up. Hold the
Oh.
physical book up there.
The big one or the little one?
Do both of them. Put both of them up
Okay.
there. And while you're
Okay.
putting that up, I want to say Susanna Don posted, we've got this on the screen. It says, yes, creating the paperback version was interesting for me. I get the first proof of my paperback version of Search for the Armor of God to approve tomorrow. Congratulations, Susanna. This is this is what we're really hoping for. So Christine was inspired to take a concept that she had, just shared in a newsletter, to expand it. And this is the great thing about ebooks, digital books. You don't, in the old days, if you had a book that had a narrow spine, it would get lost on the bookshelf at the bookstore. But today, and this is the shameless promotion, right? They all look the same on Amazon, right? They all look the same. And so it doesn't have to be 200 pages. And in fact, most people aren't going to read a 200-page book. I actually put a book out called Influence, Creation of Credibility, and it takes people through a process in 12 weeks to take your idea into a book. And I'm promoting, do it as a Kindle book, right? That's a little easier way to go. But let's go over to Liz and talk about the process. When you take an author, say Nick comes to you and says, wow, I've got these ideas, I've got all these writings, but what do I do? Liz, take us through the process, and then Nick will come to you and learn about you. So Liz.
Well, we particularly work with people who already have a manuscript, and then we edit that manuscript. And we edit, we do at least 3 edits, but we really do 7 or 8 edits because you're editing all the time. So we take somebody's manuscript. Since like you say, we do nonfiction and children's book, and most of our nonfiction is leverage related. Somebody has a business and they want to share some knowledge that they have, whether that's finance or health or relationships, doesn't matter what it is. But it's something that they want to share. That's a process that they've created. It's a situation experience they've gone through and gotten to the other side. Just like Christine. I mean, there's huge need to help families that are caring for people with Alzheimer's and with dementia and with all kinds of diseases, not just those things. Because people don't plan for it. It just happens to them. And then they're stuck, and then they go, what do I do? And they don't know what to do, and they're frozen. So huge need. And we're so glad you're doing that. But once you edit, we format, we do the layout. A lot of people get in trouble, like she mentioned, with the cover, because you don't know what the spine's going to look like until you have the final number of pages. And you don't know what the number of final pages is until you have a title page and a copyright page and an author page in the back. And most people don't have any of that because they don't know they have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that we add. We walk people through the ISBN process because we want people to own their own work. We want you to own the ISBN. If Amazon or Zoom or Zulu or Lulu or any of these other people want to give you an ISBN, that means they own the book. Okay, you don't own it. They own it. They own the copyright. They don't tell you that. They just tell you they'll give you one for free. But whoever owns that number on the back of the book owns the printed copy, not the copyright, but the actual printed copy that Scott just held up and that Christine just held up. So you got to be real careful about that. The sad thing, like we talked about Vanity Press, is now people will tell you, if somebody asks you for money, they're just trying to take your money and they're a Vanity Press. Well, no, I'm here to tell you that's not true. Scott and I are not doing Vanity Press. Okay. What we're doing is partner publishing, where we're helping people by doing a lot of the technical details that they don't know how to do, that we can do faster than anybody else. And do we charge for that? Sure we do, but we're charging a couple of $1,000s and maybe 5 up to 10, depending on the marketing and the PR and the media and the other aspects of publishing that they want to do. But you can publish for about $2,000 or less, depending on what you're publishing. Illustrations are the hard, cost pretty much more than anything else. So if you're doing a children's book,
right.
That's the problem too. People go out and have illustrations done, and then that size doesn't work for the book because the online publishers only publish certain trim sizes.
Mm-hmm.
They only publish certain size books. And anytime you go outside their parameters, you have to redo it. You have to start over. And I know people that have spent thousands of dollars on illustrations and did these big, oblong books because they were looking at thinking of the books they read when they were a kid. And guess what? Most of those books don't exist anymore. Okay. The publishing process has changed over the last 30, 48 years that I've been in it. A lot of it's still the same, but a lot of it's changed. But yeah, so Nick, I don't want to take all the time. We want to hear from Nick, but I'm happy to talk to anybody and walk anybody through the process, answer any questions. We're at theauthoradventure.com. You can go there. You can find Russ and I on that site.
Mm-hmm.
You can find all the books that we publish for other people. You can find our programs, our free programs. We have a free e-newsletter that you can sign up for, and it's got about 70 articles about the writing and publishing and marketing and distribution process, because I think there's 5 things that you have to do. And most people, don't know them. Most people know one, they either know how to write, or maybe they have some marketing and social media skills, but they don't understand how they can distribute, which is actually selling the book, and that there are multiple places to distribute. You can distribute to the military, to churches, to schools, to libraries, to corporations, to nonprofits, but they all speak a different language. So you've got to understand how to talk to them if you're going to sell your book.
How to market to them, to their audience. Yes, of course.
Yeah, Nick,
well, I was
go
going to say, so we've got Lonnie Ray just get a comment in here. And she says there's a lot of moving parts, right?
Yeah,
and
that's what I always say.
So Christine started her book. She wrote her book and did the ebook publishing, and then she hired me, her husband,
Love it.
to do all the mechanical work behind the scenes. But it's very simple. I will tell you, it's very simple to publish a Kindle only book relative to everything else. But still, it can be overwhelming, kind of daunting for people to say, well, I don't really, I don't know if I have a whole book in me. And doing an anthology is a great way to go at working with a number of different authors. And so we're going to come to you, Nick, here in a moment. And I've got Lonnie Ray up. I want people to reach out to Lonnie because I think they're on volume 3 of Rattled Awake. Now, Russ Hedge, whose show this is, was an author in volume 1, international bestseller book, Overnight. And so this is a great way to start. If you want to write a book, but boy, there's just so many moving parts, as Lonnie says. Maybe you want to get involved in writing a chapter in an anthology. Well, go talk to Lonnie. I think they're in volume 3 right now, Rattled Awake. But Nick, let's get your experience.
Well, I believe that Rattled Awake volume 3 launched today, and I actually co-authored with Russ in volume 1. So I had the wonderful experience of being in that class with him, with Lonnie, along with my sisters out there, Constance Leland and Susanna Dawn. So, a lot of what I've learned this past year and through co-authoring in 3 anthologies now, all that have gone to #1 international bestseller. And just where I'm headed in general with my writing, graphics that was not something I planned to do. And just by chance ended up falling in love with it and getting business through it. That now I have 1, 2, 3 or 4 books, like I said, up on Amazon, the covers of which I've designed. What I did is I created a package called Published in Style, where basically an author can come to me and I can create their cover as well as do all their promotional memes. So they get the coming soon, they get the save the date, the launch date, and of course, when they're done, #1 bestseller, because that's where we're headed, international, preferably. Yeah. With everything going on, and especially with, my immediate circle, Susanna and Constance and Christine, we all met and authored in 2 Cents on Self-Love. That's how we met. And now Susanna is publishing her own. Constance has a TV show. Constance is going to be going live with her TV show on November 11th. There's just so much happening with us that we decided it's time to take the next step. And that next step is the 4 of us coming together. And very soon you will hear that launch that we are going into opening our own publishing company. But as a first step, I decided it's time for Nick, the gifted bipolar writer, to put out her own anthology, which is the one behind me. A note to my family: I am your legacy. And I am a mother of a 26-year-old son who last year was 15 going on 26. I'm glad to say this year he's 26. And I have a very small family, and he's estranged from his father. And I thought to myself, if I can leave a window open to the past, just a snippet, what would it look like? What would I tell a future relative in a few minutes if I had just that time with them about who I was and how I lived my life? What would it mean to them whose veins carry my blood that this was my ancestor writing to me? What would I share? And that's why I chose the title of this book. It's going to be all different stories because it's going to be what you want to speak to uniquely of yourself to your future generations. And that's, to me, the legacy I want to leave. I've fought very hard to embrace my bipolarness and to use that to propel me forward. And it runs in my family. My father's bipolar 1 with mania. My uncles, I have a couple that are unfortunately also with mental illness. Should this strain pass down in my family, I need them to have this gift. I need them to
and
have
even if they don't appreciate it today, they will appreciate it later.
Yes.
Exactly.
So don't get discouraged. If you're out there and you're writing and your family is not supportive of what you're doing, go on anyway. Okay.
They're
Be
incredibly
bold.
supportive,
Call
thank
Liz,
God.
call Scott, call Christina, call Nick, so that we can encourage you, because if you've got a dream to write and publish, you need to pursue that dream, and you need to not let other people dissuade you from that dream. And the sad thing is people that are close to you, and they're not really doing it in malicious intent. They really are worried about you. They don't understand what you're doing or why you want to do it. And they think it's hard, and they think it takes a lot of money, and they think you're going to get taken advantage of because they've heard all these horror stories. And and you can be. You got to be careful. You should always get talk to 2 or 3 people before you give anybody money. For sure. We always tell people that. There's so much free information available. I mean, you can learn anything you want to learn today. It's just most of us don't have that time. We need to be focused on what our mission is and our purpose. And that's not going to necessarily be, doing the production and the uploading and the formatting and the graphics, for our story.
And that's why I'm so lucky, because I'm like, I'm already at the point of writing as well as doing all the graphics myself. So that part, and then I have, Susanna.
That's the fun part. That's why I still do it. I mean, it's 48. I mean, I'm 15 years and I still do the production because the layout and the design and the covers and playing with everything and putting it all together. I mean, that's the fun part. I mean, I like playing with Amazon too, but
so we're going to go to Christine, because she went from the digital book to the paper book, and we want to talk a little bit about that. But I love the story here, and I'm going to go back and say, don't forget that Rattled Awake. Look at this. Volume 3 is on Amazon today for free. So why would you not buy that? Get a copy of that. And here's the deal. Authors live and die on reviews. So here's what you can do. Look, Lonnie's making the book free. Go to Amazon and get it. But then say thank you by going to Amazon and writing a review. Doesn't have to be expensive, but throw 5 stars up, right? Because these authors have put their heart out there. And today's show is all about inspiring everyone to write a book. And let me tell you how to do it. And then, Christine, we're going to come to you. You go to kdp.amazon.com. That's Kindle Direct Publishing. Go to kdp.amazon.com. Fill out set up your account, right? You got to fill it out. It's just a form. If you've done taxes in the past, if you've filled out some sort of, you can
Any
open
kind
a
of online
KDP
form,
account,
it's the same thing. Yeah.
right? KDP.amazon.com. And
Have your
then
bank
write
account
your book.
information, your routing number, your routing number, and your
Yeah. So they can
account
deposit
number
your
and your
money in
tax
there, right? They're
ID
going to
number.
want
That's
all
all
this
you
stuff.
need.
But
And you're off and running.
kdp.amazon.com. Then write your book in Word. Just write. Don't format it. Just write. Just go through. Get a friend to edit it, and then you download the Kindle Create program right from Amazon, from kdp.amazon.com. It's free, and then you import your book in there. You do some formatting. You add a cover, which I created my covers, by the way, in my fake Photoshop program that I got for free, right? Because they just say this needs to be this many pixels wide and whatever. I put it in there. I did it. I hit, and then you hit publish. And about 2 hours later, you get an email from Amazon that says, congratulations, your book is now available. And you can set the pricing, you can charge, you can set it for free. But look, you can get the Amazon account is free. Writing the book is free. Getting your friend to write it, to edit it is free. Making your own cover is free. You hit publish, it's free. So, I mean, you can upgrade from there. But here's the deal. And I always tell entrepreneurs this, because whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneurial heart, you've got a story to share. And what I tell people is, if you are not embarrassed by your first release, you waited too long.
That's right. You waited
Right?
too long to put
So
it out
put
there.
it out there,
Mhm.
and they're gonna, and then people are gonna go, "Oh, you misspelled your own name."
Good is good
Oh,
enough. Perfect does
It's
not
a
exist
digital
in
book.
any
You
world.
can change it. You
Yeah.
can change it, right? So, Christine,
Yeah,
you
and
published
that's
a
the
digital
great
book.
thing. When I started, you couldn't change anything.
That's
You had to
right.
go back and completely redo it. Today, you can upload a file. You can come back in the next day and make some edits and changes and reload it, and nobody knows but you and me and the author. None of the customers know. The customer that bought the book last week, they don't
right.
care about the customer that buys the book next week. They don't even know. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Christine.
So I'm telling you, it's easy to do. You can do it for no cost, and then you'll be embarrassed, and then you'll fix it. But
Right.
don't not publish. Christine, you did a digital book. You went to a paper book. What does it feel like when you opened up that package and you got your book?
Okay, you're just going to get honest. I was like, I have this vision of what I'm about to see. And then I pulled it out and it was like a stranger to me. Maybe that would be like someone giving birth to a baby and they look at it and they're just like, who's that? Because for 9 months, they thought, oh, they're going to have my chin and these ears. So I looked at it and I was like, what's this? Which actually worked out because I flip open the book and I start reading my book and I'm like, this is good. This is good
Wow.
information. Wow, and I'm reading it like it's somebody else's book. So I gave birth to a stranger and I got to know it and I like it. And I know perfectly well that I agonized over editing and all that. And I tried to write words or sentences that my husband says I'm good at writing the way that I speak. And that people can kind of feel my flow or hear my voice or
Hear your voice.
get my vibe or see, that's what I want to emphasize. So it was like a stranger to me, but I really liked getting to know it. And I know perfectly well that the big book, the red book, has a whole lot of stuff in it that I'm looking at going, why did I write it that way? But I am not dissuaded. Now I'm thinking how I'm going to do the one that, and this is going to come out this way. Now that I get to look at this stranger, I can go, wait a minute. If I had set it up this is going to be. So yes, I will make changes. I will do a second edition, right? You always got those in school. So obviously those people that were paid a lot of money to write those school books,
Mhm.
they didn't get it all the first time. Or, I've got to update
Listen,
this
I've read
somehow.
I've read
So
a lot of
it's like,
James Patterson and Nora Roberts that had mistakes in it. Okay, they're the two biggest publishers in the world. Next,
My
next to Chicken
God,
Soup for the Soul and the Bible.
my
And
two
even they've
favorite
had
authors.
problems in their stuff. And they got professional editors. They got traditional
Mhm.
publishers. So you can't get caught up in the little stuff. You've got to just get it
no,
out there, refine it, do the second edition later on if you want, or
yeah.
change it, or write book two, and you get
I
better.
have, yeah,
Writing is
I have
an
something.
activity that you can get better at the more you do. It's like music. If you play the guitar or the piano, the more you play, the better you get. Writing is a skill like that. Or some people
Mhm.
really talented and have a gift for flow and words. Sure, they do. But
Right.
anybody that wants to write can learn to write, and you learn to write by writing and and you get better by practice. And so just keep doing it.
I have a little gift to show Lonnie along with the authors. Unfortunately, it's in volume 1 right now, but I don't know if you could see how many
Ooh.
copies I have here. And I have them at my home. They were meant to be give out as gifts for Christmas, so I'll be reordering. But being that I'm given this opportunity on November 11th to speak in New York City, I have been invited to bring all my books to sign and sell. So I am going to be bringing all of these, Lonnie. I'm just letting you know.
So I want to talk about the creative process because so every child, when they're young, very small, right? Every child is creative. They're all singers and dancers and poets and musicians, and they're in the grocery store because they hear music and it makes them move, and they're dancing down the aisles completely unconcerned with what anyone thinks, right? And
That's a
then
great thing.
there's a moment when people stop that, right? When children stop dancing, singing at the top of their voice just because they're happy, right? And there's research around jazz musicians because the creative part of jazz music, the improvisation, is a big part of it. So they put these musicians inside a functional MRI machine, fMRI, and they looked at their brain while they played music note for note, right? Just play as you see it. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, improvise off of that theme. And then they played, and then they went and improvised, right? They became creative. And it wasn't the part of the brain that became active that was interesting. What was interesting in that fMRI was the part of their brain that went dark when they were being creative. And the part that went dark was the part that said, I care what other people think. So when we're 5, 6 years old, we don't care what people think. We hit 6, 7, 8 years old, we want to be cool. We want to fit in. We worry about what people think of us. And so that's when that creativity drops away.
And I have to say, for most of us, when we turn 60, we don't care either.
Well, yeah, this is right. Yeah.
We
So
go
here's
back
the
to
deal.
being 5. We go back to not caring what anybody thinks. And, when you get to about 50, 60, 65, 70, you go, I don't care what anybody thinks. This is what I'm doing.
Before
This,
that
I
too,
wanna
I'm
do it.
47. I could tell you, I really don't.
So that's what I'm
I really
encouraging
don't
people.
care.
Look, set up your KDP account, download the book, upload it, do the whole thing, publish your book, publish, and turn that part of your brain off that says I care what people think. Just do it. Is the Nike phrase. We live here in the Northwest, and the home of Nike, their marketing company came up with the most beautiful campaign. Just do it. If you want to be good at something, follow what Liz says and just write.
And
So
one
pick
creative
it up,
action
Liz.
every day. If you do one action every day, that becomes 7 actions, that becomes 21, that becomes 31, that becomes 52. And in a year, you've had all of these actions that you created, and it multiplies. If you do one every day, after about 7 or 14 or 21 days, you'll start doing 2, and then you'll start doing 3, because your brain loves it. Your brain loves it when you're creative. Your brain loves it when those endorphins start going and that everything starts going off, and you start making connections with, oh, well, what if I took this and mixed it with this and then added this over here? Then it becomes something new. And so, you know, you just get you get caught up in it, and it's just like publishing. You know, you publish one book, you know, get ready because the train's leaving the station. And most of us, like you say, I got 15, and most of my other authors have 2, 3, 4, 5, because we, you know, once you catch the bug, you just don't want to quit.
I
And
love what
Christine,
you say, Scott. And
go ahead,
sorry,
Nick. Go
but I
ahead.
love what you say. And now that I have published, I do feel that way. I feel that being published is a gift that everyone should give them to themselves at least once in their life.
Yeah.
You need to know what that feels like. It is an experience that
And
it's not
accept it.
it's not worth forfeiting.
So I published my first book in 2018, and I was at a local Starbucks getting coffee, and I happened to be talking to the guy on the line, and you know, we're just kind of going back and forth, and it came up because it was on my brain that I had published this book, and he said, "Oh, you're an author." I was hesitant to accept that title,
Yes.
Wow.
right?
I know the feeling.
Yeah. Now,
I know the
Christine, you
feeling.
started your book started on, I always say, it started on like gum wrappers in your car. Let's talk about your creative process.
Yes. And I've got it behind me, but I know my things will go flick out of my ear if I go grab it. But it is a quilted purple bag that was given to me by a friend who loves to quilt. And I would use it going home to home and then maybe taking a lunch break in my car and then go start a short shift somewhere else at someone else's home. And I would notice something that was similar in 2 different homes or 5 different homes, or something that changed drastically, what I call the sigh of relief or the sigh of regret. And I thought, okay, I see a theme going on here. And I would write something down, being super privacy, you know, no names, no, you know, anything, just a scrap of paper that maybe I peeled off the top of something, wrote it down. It would go into that bag. And that's all it did for years. So something in just the writing down, like, hey, I have identified something, because my writing thus far has not been fiction. My storytelling, as a mom, I would tell these stories. And it has been said a number of times, even by our kids, by my husband, you should write those. And I said, oh, I already saw those books in my mind years and years ago, because our kids are all in their 20s now.
Yeah.
I saw the books. I know how they feel. I know that not exactly what the front is, but how it's different than the other books in the library. So they were already happening up here, but you know, finally they get to be something that you can pass to someone. And the idea, my husband goes, doesn't that feel good? Because I said, I gave my book to so-and-so just to thank them. Or I gave my Care Griever Kit book. It's just a practical guide to grieving well and healthy grieving. And I gave it to someone in their situation. And I thought, oh, when you wish you could give them something, you know, you wish there was something you could do. And, you know, well, actually, my big red book, the Pre-Act Your Age one, it's the book that nobody wants to read. So I have done it. It's not the great American novel. It's the book that nobody wants to read. But because it's a journal, you will wish that you had filled it in with your own thoughts and information, selecting from the prompts. You'll wish you had done it a few years ago. You'll wish that you could go back to that book, because it's not my book anymore. The moment that you put something in there, it's totally yours.
Yeah.
And you'll wish that it was there for you to look and go, how did I feel about that before? What did I say that I wanted to do? What was there were these 12 things, and what did I say? Because it has been a while. That's what I want for someone to just be able to go, I did it.
So
I pre-acted my age. And
as
I'm
we
like,
wind down to the top of the hour, Christine, give people your 1-minute tip and
Yep.
how people get a hold of you.
all righty. How people get a hold of me, please go to aging. That's without an E. If you write it the way that they do in the UK, it's without an E. AgingBetterNetwork.com. And there's a whole bunch of info there that you can get a hold of me or get a hold of. You can pre-meet me in replays of the live group conversations that I do. My 1-minute tip, or now I'm down to 15 seconds, is that when your book lands somewhere, books, the written word, is the only seed that every time it's planted somewhere, it grows something different, something new, because where it's being planted is a new place, a new person. So when you write your book, not if, when you write your book, it will be planted somewhere and something new will grow.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Nick,
beautiful.
inspire people, because your story, by the way, is inspiring.
Thank you. Well, start with how you can reach me. It's right there, my name, Nick, N-I-C, not the dash. Of course, it's an email. So it's just Nick, the GBW at gmail.com. The GBW being gifted bipolar writer. Or you can reach me on LinkedIn on DM as well. My quick tip is have an awesome community like the one that's in the room right now. My goodness gracious, I just have to say a quick hello to everybody in there and thank you so much. I do see you and I do see your comments.
Yeah.
Sorry. Start where you want, start with what you have. You have it in you. It might take a little longer to uncover. It might come out guns blazing and unleash like mine did, but it's there. Okay, and you just have to start. And I know that it's scary and you're going to doubt yourself. And all of that is part of the process. Trust the process. My tip and what has worked for me, and this is just me personally, I've never journaled. I do not write tips down anywhere. When I've had to write chapters for anthologies, I know that second that I feel that inspiration flowing through me. And I sit down and I will not stop pounding on the keyboard. I do not stop to look over words to make sure it's spelled right. I don't stop to check grammar. Everything just literally, I want to say vomits, but pours out of me like it's coming out of every single goddamn pore. I could feel every emotion, every myriad of emotion on the earth. And when I'm done, and I might be an hour, it might be 2, might be 3, and I step back, I know I'm good. I just got to run that crap through Grammarly now. But that has been the best writing experience for me. When you are raw, you will write your best.
Fabulous. It is. And I'm just going to put Susanna's comment back up here. Nicole is very inspiring.
Thank you.
And Liz, give us your tip and how.
Yeah, so it's right. Just write. Get it out of your head. Get it on something. I still write longhand and then I type it in because that's just my process. Other people type on their computer. Some people type on their iPad. If you don't even like to write, you don't even have to write today. You can take your phone and you can record into your phone. You can record into your Zoom on your computer. Just set up a Zoom for yourself. Punch the button, say record, and start speaking your story and telling your story. So you can write your story 1,000 different ways. You don't have to write it like D. Scott. You don't have to write it like Christine, like Nick or Liz. You can write it your way. But there are certain things you do need. If you're going to pay for something, pay for a good editor and pay for a good cover. Unless you can do your cover like Nick, like yourself, that's great. But otherwise, those are the two things. I don't edit my own stuff because I read it right. I know what it's supposed to say.
Exactly.
Okay, because I've
Never
written
edit your own
it,
work.
I've had it in my head, I've thought about it. So you've always got to get somebody else's eyes to look at it. To find us, you can go to theauthoradventure.com. The email's there too. You can go find us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. We're across social media platforms. You can do author Liz Lawless, and that's going to come up. All my stuff's going to come up. But I hope you will go check us out. And if you're an author, send us an email because we are going to be interviewing new authors coming up November, December, and January after the first of the year. And so we'd obviously love to talk to you. There's no cost for that. We just schedule you at 5:00 on Tuesdays from 5 to 5:30 Central Standard Time. So if you're on a different time zone, we'll have to figure that out. And if you can't make it at that time, we can always record you and then post it. But we like to do it live because, like you say, so we can have that interaction with the rest of the audience. And then that gets archived and it goes to our YouTube channel. It goes out to 11 or 12 podcast channels. So any way you can promote yourself. And don't think that you're promoting yourself too much. You cannot promote yourself too much. If you promote on Facebook or social media and you post once a week and think everybody saw it, guess what? Nobody saw it. If they didn't see it in the first 15 minutes, they didn't see it on Twitter. If they didn't see it in the first hour and a half on Facebook, they didn't see it. If they didn't see it in the first 3 hours on LinkedIn, they didn't see it. So keep posting the reviews that Scott mentioned. That's very important. Always go back and ask people to do a review for you because they'd be glad to do it. They just don't think of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not offended when you say, hey, can you go do a review for me? If you like my book, be honest and put it out there.
Yeah.
And if
Your friends want you
buy
to
the book
succeed.
on Amazon, you can do the review on Goodreads.
We have to
Right?
support one another. That is the way
Yeah.
we all rise. We have to support one another.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, we're going to wind down here. I'm just going to say,
all right, Scott, now we need to do 3 or 4
speaking
more
of promotion,
these.
I'll talk a little bit about that.
I want to know if we're going to do one of these publishing things each month because next week we have to talk about publishing because we talked about writing today. And after that, we got to talk about marketing. And after we talk about marketing, we got to talk about launching because we didn't talk about that, and then we got to talk about
there is a ton of stuff. I wrote the first book that I mentioned was in 2018, a Kindle only book. And was I embarrassed by it? Yeah, absolutely. But it is out there, right? I did it. And then I did another book. And then I think there was I did 3 Kindle books out there. Then I did the first joint book with Matt Rouse and Holly Jackson. So the 3 of us collaborated and did another ebook. Then I collaborated with Veronica Jeans, and this was my first paper book. And that was just thrilling because she did all the work to make this happen. I just wrote, which is way cool. So the anthologies.
Yeah, but when you hold it in your hand, there's nothing better, is there? When you got that book in the mail and you opened it up and you held it up in your hand.
It was cool.
It's the best feeling in the world.
I took 2 digital books, combined them, edited them, updated it, and turned it into a new book, right? And so don't be bounded. Don't be limited. I just want to say thank you, Nick. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Liz. Thank you to everybody that watched. Thank you to Russ for putting together Russ Reels every Thursday at 4 p.m. right here on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to Russ's channel and support each other. The best thing that we can do is subscribe to YouTube channels, share people's posts on LinkedIn, write reviews on their books. These are great things that you can do that don't cost money, but buy people's books too, right?
Yes.
Hey, we're all in this.
Oh my God, I have tons of them.
And here's the great thing about Amazon is maybe Christine's book about the caregiver kit could be the perfect thing for somebody that you know who lives several states away. You can put their address in and have it sent right to them and be the hero.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we're going to wind down Russ Reels for today. Again, thank you to everybody. So with that, have a fabulous day, and we'll run the ending credits. Thank you.
It's been great to be with you.
You as well.
Oh.